Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As today we just get back to exploring the great wide expanse. I mean, obviously we're still keeping Marazai waiting because it serves him right, but we've got 3 loose ends to tie now. Plus, I want to say at least 4 events in the travel queue. The ritual, the officer meeting, at least 2 romance events. So yeah, we're just gonna focus on that. Though, as far as loose ends go, it turns out we are 1 hop away from Pellium Solitas, the sector, the lights out puzzle with the astrolabe pointed us towards. And you know, I was trying to save that sector for when we are ready to deal with Marazai, but it's right there. Though, let's be honest, we're almost certainly gonna get sidetracked by a travel event anyway. Let's see what we got. Yep, here we go. Lord Captain, permission to address you with a request. Our head surgeon is sabotaging the ship's operations. He's quarantined several Voidsman crews on account of a piddling sickness. People don't even go to the medbay when they come down with it. They just wipe their noses and keep working. Only a dozen or so die from it in a whole year. We're sitting on our hands here, so I ask you to talk some sense into him. Your box clicks and you hear a dry, nonchalant response. Greetings, your lordship. As you know, my name is Letard Forius, and I am the Surgeon Majoris of this vessel. As your Chief Medicae Specialist, I assure you that the quarantine is well warranted. This piddling sickness has claimed the lives of a number of meritorious officers in the past. This time I intend to get the epidemic under control, study the disease thoroughly, and develop a proper cure. I hope we all agree that a single period of downtime is a small price to pay for the number of lives that will be saved, and the increase in the crew's performance during other such outbreaks in the future. Not to mention the fact that we won't have to waste stimulants due to the afflicted using them as a crutch to offset their limited work capacity. I mean, I've got to say, Doc, you are talking a lot of sense there. How exactly were you looking at pursuing these studies? By gathering enough infected individuals together, letting the illness progress, comprehending its properties, and finally, killing it. The disease goes through several stages, with each containing clues to its nature and vulnerabilities. The Voidsman will have to stay sick for some time until I discover the cure, assuming, of course, that the disease is reversible in its final stages. Okay, well now, Letard, all due respect, but you have now lost me. I do kind of draw the line at human experimentation, at least without people explicitly signing up, knowing what they're getting into. I'll tell you what, I'm not overtly against your end goal here, but let's maybe change our approach. You can run your experiments on any crew that volunteer for that service, but I also do expect them to be appropriately compensated and preferably cured once all is said and done. As long as you can work within those parameters, you have my permission to proceed. This may limit the potential of my study, but this approach is also acceptable. I will make up for the lack of material with my expertise. Thank you for taking your crew's health into consideration. Boreas, my man. That's what I like to hear. I mean, you're still maybe ever so slightly ethically compromised, but honestly, in the grim, dark future where there is naught but war, I feel like you gotta grade everyone on a curve, you know? Should you require my services, you may find me on the bridge, your lordship. Indeed. Oh. The High Factotum's voice rings with pride. Lord Captain, I have done as commanded. Everything has been prepared for your ritual for Mistress Cabela. A select few upper deck officers are ready to leave their post to attend this formal gathering and praise your lordship's name. We can begin at your convenience. Ooh, 2 events in a single jump. Unexpected. Also, Danrock, I've got to say, you're already confirming my concerns that you were going to completely misinterpret my orders and turn this into something I did not ask for. This isn't really what I had in mind when I said I wanted to show Cabela an officer meeting. I am confident that Mistress Cabela will appreciate the effort, both yours and mine. What could be more representative of the Lord Captain's inner circle than a formal event in the company of the most eminent members of the crew? I mean, like actual business? You know, all the stuff we do to keep the ship running? But, you know, if you've already gone through the trouble of setting it all up, then sure, let's do this thing. It will be done. I shall signal the servants and notify the invited parties immediately. Let us demonstrate to Mistress Cabela just how strong our vessel's spirit of camaraderie truly is. Yeah, let's do that. I'm sure this will in no way backfire and just further confuse and confound our oddly introverted assassin. I am curious to see exactly how it ends up going off the rails. I'm sure there will be some insight to glean from that, at least. Space cat! Cat. A pungent animal scent hits your nose. A huge predator materializing out of nowhere in the middle of your chambers studies you with its unblinking gaze. Cat. You see nothing to indicate where this strange new marvel has come from. The animal tracks your every move. Something about you seems to have captured its attention. You think you may have an idea what. Yes, it's the utter lack of fear and complete and uncompromising adoration. We've only just met, but this thing already knows that I will die for it. Oh, who's a cutie? Come here. The beast tentatively flexes its tail. Oh, Jai, you're here too. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Sit there, Sirocco, and be a good... Oh, have you two already met, Shireen? Jai, you scoundrel. Is this your way of asking me if you can keep your new pet? You gonna tell me it followed you home from Janus? Well, I've got news for you. I love it, and I would like one myself. She is for you, Shireen. A gift from me. Jai's stock going up. Generous hearts do not hide their feelings, but shower their nearest and dearest with gifts. I won't deny it, choosing a gift worthy of a rogue trader wasn't easy. But I tried my best. Do you like her? I mean, I think I've already made my feelings on the matter clear, but, you know, if you want it on the record... Yes. Though, I do have to wonder, why a Lacerax? Can you think of a better pet for a rogue trader? Laceraxes are fearsome, strong, and proud creatures. Just like you. You will strike awe into the hearts of your guests when they see you have tamed so wild and dangerous a creature. And if anyone ever misbehaves, you can always feed them to your Lacerax, and it will be most impressive. Admit it, it's a magnificent accessory. Well, see, now you're kind of losing me, because A, it's a life companion, not an accessory. And B, I feel like feeding people to this thing would probably set a bad precedent, so let's maybe not do that. I assume she came from Janus? Indeed. I hired hunters to catch me a suitable beast in the jungles of Janus. She cost me 7 times what she weighs, but the Exalted One does not send us friends so that we can be stingy with our affections, does he? I suppose not. I'm no stranger to sharing the wealth myself. I don't suppose she's house-trained? She is a fast learner. Jai is suddenly cagey. I have already taught her a command. Don't eat. Well, you know what? As far as tricks go, that's probably a good one to start with. So does this pretty girl have a name? I like the name Sirocco. It is the name of a deadly wind that originates in the hottest deserts of Afrit. But you are her owner, so you should name her. No, you can't just go renaming a pet. That'll just confuse them. Especially if that's the one that we've got associated with the whole, don't eat command. Sirocco sounds good to me. Or Sirocco? That's not a word I use very often. Excellent. A proud animal deserves a proud name. Knowledgeable people will hear the name and feel even greater respect for the one who has leashed this force of nature. Sure. Also, I'm going to snuggle her and give her treats, so, there's that too. But, hey, look, Jai, I know we don't always see eye to eye on things, but I love this, and I very much appreciate the gesture. I also suppose it would be rude if I dumped you immediately after receiving this gift, so you know what? I guess we'll continue dating for now. At least until you do something to really, I guess, utterly betray my trust. But you're not a bad gal. I do very much get the impression of overcompensation to cover up some terrible trauma in her past, but compensating for trauma is kind of part and parcel of the Warhammer 40k universe. I knew you would approve, Shireen. Jai claps her hands loudly, and the animal whips around at the noise with predatory interest. I think she will be shown off to her best advantage, next to your throne. I mean, I was gonna build her a little house in my quarters, but sure, I guess that works too. Long as we can, avoid the whole eating people thing. Wow, so 3 separate events triggering on a single jump. That was unexpected. Which still leaves manual triggering for the Officer's Deck event. Zacharias and his ritual, that's, I'm sure, going to be a whole thing. We've got Mars Eyes thing, but that is for the end of the act. Though, we're right here again. We might at least poke our head in. And then we've got this, which is in the current sector we are in. Though, before we do that, let's at least go... No, we shouldn't do, no bath. We don't need a bath just yet. We've got other things on our plate. Let's, I don't think we've got anything new in here, but I'll double check that later. Yeah, let's go trigger the officer meeting. I am curious to see where that ends up going. Ooh, also. Hey, who's a pretty girl? How you doing, Siri? Or Ciro? Cicero? Oh, you're adorable. It makes everything else worth it. All of Jai's hijinks. And again, honestly, she hasn't really been all that bad. She is a bit much. But I do feel like she has an inherently kind heart. And goodness knows, I do certainly appreciate the space cat. Honestly, at this point, I do kind of think we're just going to end up dabbling in all of the available romance paths. Until, of course, we inevitably end up locking things in with Cass. Ultimately depending on the nature and perhaps number of nightmarish skeletons in her closet. I suppose she might not get on with Cece. That is a bit of a sticky wicket. Oof, yeah. Oh, Janris, you just can't stop Dan rocking the boat. He means well. Gabella stands out clearly from the officers in attendance, both for her favoring the full regalia of a member of the Bloodspun Web over formal attire, and for the empty space around her. The other attendees are keeping their distance as if an air of mortal danger repels them from your companion. Danrock, whose keen, worried gaze is locked on Cabela and whose mouth is stretched into a most courteous of smiles, gives you a hurried bow. Your lordship. Daman Valen, you are here. Cabela sounds neither excited nor solemn. Her tone is indifferent as her fearsome metal claws clutch a slice of fruit from one of the plates. Well, that's something. Kibbles, glad to see you made it. Sorry, this isn't quite what I had in mind, but I'm glad to see you're enjoying the officer meeting refreshments. She smiles. Food like this is impossible to come by in the lower bays. I do not know what this is, but it tastes incredible. Juice is dripping down her fingers and hand. It seems she is the only one here who has not lost her appetite. The officers' faces have turned into pale, alarmed masks, and none of them is in a hurry to enjoy the feast. Well, I'm glad to hear it. You're more than welcome to help yourself. So how are you enjoying the officer meeting so far? I am attempting to peer through the florid shell to the core, yet it continues to elude me. Cabela looks you in the eye. What is the purpose of this ritual, Daman Valen? Explain it to me. Well, Kibbles, normally we would be standing around discussing logistics and regulations and the various nuanced details of how to run a ship populated by tens of thousands of people, but in this particular case, because we had a special guest in attendance, I thought we might turn this into a display of my gratitude for their loyal service. They give their entire lives to help prop up my empire. So this is the least I can do to show my appreciation for their efforts. Does one merit gratitude for doing what their duty demands? Would these people act differently without your show of appreciation? I hope that is not the case. I am too conspicuous beside the rest of your servants. Cabela looks at the other guests and they quickly avert their gaze. A fitting mask, that is what is required for a ritual like this. I came unprepared. It will not happen again. Yeah, well, some non-cult clothing might have helped, but you had no real way of knowing what you were in for here. You holding up okay? Again, it's not exactly what I had in mind, but it is, I suppose, a scenario you may have to deal with in the future, given my line of work. I feel wrong. Strange people, strange sounds and gestures. Cabela lets out a sharp breath. Her gaze becomes vacant and her hands reach for the table knife. I am losing myself in this whirlpool. Grasping the knife, she begins to carve lines right into the expensive wooden tabletop. A nervous murmur runs through the crowd. Their tense gazes are locked on the harmless-looking, barely sharpened metal utensil in the hands of the cultist of the blood-spun web. To be 100% fair, you can in fact kill someone with just about anything. Oh, hey, and look at that. We're actually using our personal persuasion skill with a 100% chance to succeed. Nice. Finally getting some payoff for that early level up choice to go for the... Gosh, what was it called? The computer brain feat? The one that lets us swap in intelligence for all our fellowship rolls? Well, Kibbles, I will admit, it does take some getting used to, but it seems like you're adapting quite quickly. You've certainly mastered the art of commanding the attention of the people around you. She blinks in surprise and looks up at you. She glances back and forth, seemingly privy to the meaning of your words. And then her clear, genuine laughter fills the room, startling everyone around her. I suppose that's true, Daman Valen. I will not bluster your subjects further. Cabela glances at the maze she has inscribed and sighs. Whenever I lose my thread, whenever I am forced astray by the outside world, I return to the labyrinth. It has all the answers. My meditation helps. In finding my way out, I regain myself and praise the righteousness of serving the Undying One. Sure, yeah, we all have our coping mechanisms, some healthier than others. In the future, though, perhaps we could help you relax a bit more with some casual wear of some sort. Something to perhaps help you fit in slightly better with your new peers. Going about in the full regalia of an assassin does feel somewhat counterintuitive, if you ever intend to retain the element of surprise. Cabela looks at you with mild confusion. My appearance tells those around me who I am. Everyone here is wearing a mask for their respective thread. Is this not a requirement for your rituals? She glances at the opulent room, the dazzling decor, and the handsomely dressed officers. That's actually a very interesting question, but no, generally people dress for the occasion so as to better fit in, to conform to expectations as opposed to broadcasting who they truly are. But again, I do have to apologize. This is not at all what I had in mind when I invited you to an officer meeting. Danrock sighs heavily and looks down. Why? You have looked behind the curtain at my existence, and now I have looked at yours. Cabela stares at you intently. I do not think that we have heard all the words that should have been spoken here today. Is it because you do not wish to say them in front of witnesses? You know what? You are absolutely right, Cabela. I'm trying to pick and choose my words so as to spare your feelings. What we really need is a frank discussion. I grow weary of the gathering. Let's take a walk, shall we? Away from the prying ears of your peers. I'm sure Danrock can keep them entertained. Cabela avoids your gaze as the two of you walk away from the other guests. She seems calm, but the slight tremble running down her right hand betrays her agitation. Once you are alone, she looks straight at you. I have discerned what you are doing here, and I know that your calling it a ritual was a ruse. True rituals are constant, immutable, like the cycles of the cooling machines in the ship's bowels, or the shifts of the bay's servants. This was spontaneous, something you prepared just for me, and then you stayed at my side the entire time. Now you are here granting me yet another request. Why is that? Well, first of all, I never really meant to mislead you. That was Danrock taking liberties, but what do you mean, why? Why wouldn't I? There is no place for idle benevolence, neither along your thread, nor along mine. Cabela's eyes seem almost to glow in the dark. Yet, you offer me attention and privileges that are both undeserved and unnecessary. Why? Well, you said it yourself. Our threads are now bound. If you're to be my shadow, my constant companion for the rest of my, no doubt, short and eventful life, then it is best if we understand each other, and part of that is learning what makes the other tick. Can't have a shadow without shedding some light. Cabela lowers her head, then looks up at you with warmth. Here at the top, everyone's blood still carries a craving for what my cult sees as weakness, attachments, intimacy. I understand, but I have no need for them. And yet, I am grateful for the offer. She shakes herself slightly, as if throwing a familiar cloak of aloofness over her shoulders. We must now return each to our own thread. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Honestly, even though this did not go to plan, I am still happy to have broadened your worldview. It's weird because, yeah, in really thinking about it, she is actually even more sheltered than Cassia. Her entire life is this ship, and not just the ship, but specific parts of it with very, very niche and inherently self-destructive customs. Her whole meditation / mind labyrinth thing does strike me as like a repression technique. Doesn't know how to deal with something? Into the depths of the mind labyrinth it goes. Honestly, even her reaction to the food was kind of telling because she's otherwise trained herself not to feel anything. Hey, Cece. Honestly, you could probably draw some pretty decent parallels between Cabela and Cece here. Both trained predators who came from lives of naught but hardship and violence, now thrust into a much more complicated world of social niceties. Just struggling to figure out what to do with themselves. Though, you know, in Cece's case, she's probably content with steaks, head pats, and a comfy spot at the foot of the bed. Might get a bit awkward if we try the same with Kibbles. Okay. Let's check out Pelotum Solitus. See where the stars have guided us. 4 planets, no overt threats, no quest markers. We'll just work our way through. Gas giant. Nothing. Desert world. Bones in the desert. After analyzing the auger data, the officers were surprised to discover that the planet was once covered with oceans. Long ago, an unknown cataclysm caused the seas to dry out and turn the world into a lifeless desert. The most amazing discovery of all was the skeletal remains of colossal oceanic organisms, some large enough to be seen from orbit. Life is fragile, even for creatures this enormous. Yeah, can't really argue with that. But obviously that was not what we're looking for. Volcanic planet? No, burning world. It's beautiful. There are ardent views in the void, the lights of which I could never have imagined. A single vivid world, bleeding flames. Yet so much substance for my thoughts. Into the labyrinth it goes. Savannah world, with overgrown biodome. Bingo. Overgrown trees and ivy-covered roots conceal an ancient biodome nestled in one of the crevices. It would have been impossible to locate this place without the precise coordinates from the armillary sphere. The structure is in a state of gross disrepair. Creepers cover the walls and ceiling, and pungent flowers and berries hang from beams and equipment alike. The center of the structure reveals a sealed chamber where vegetation is yet to break through. Inside is a humble bunk, a decayed body sprawled over it, tables with blueprints, parts, and tools, and a great number of chests containing treasure. Judging by the dead man's clothes, the diary pages, and the monograms on the blueprints, you realize that you have found the final resting place of the legendary Captain Bartholomeus Ort. During his long and adventurous life, he traveled the entire expanse, mapping out numerous star systems and, in his later years, realizing his life's work, the armillary sphere that he imbued with the sum of his knowledge. The device on your ship is undoubtedly his creation. While the Adeptus Mechanicus were still hotly debating whether or not he had committed the crime of invention, Bartholomeus disappeared without a trace, leaving only a single message. I have gathered treasures from hundreds of worlds, but they will not be handed over to the covetous lords of the Expanse. Instead, I bequeath my riches to one who cherishes the shine of the stars more than any gold or rubies. It seems that you happen to be this very person. Oh, well, great. If ye seek someone to take thine treasure, then I am more than happy to oblige. Well, I've got to say, a single stack of Xeno artifacts feels kind of tame for an expanse worth of treasure. Also 3 profit factor, I guess that's something. Not to mention 3 named items, assuming they just happen to be items that fit into our particular niche builds. Tamer of the Empyrean. If psychic phenomena or perils of the warp are triggered, the wearer gains +1 psi rating during their next turn. Not terrible. Death Cult Blade. No special abilities, but might still be a decent upgrade for Cabela. Stolen Breath. Whenever the wearer's ally dies in combat, the wearer immediately gains +5 weapon skill and +5 ballistic skill until the end of combat. Also, if they are a heretic, they gain +10 toughness. Wow, yeah, that's not really our style at all. Both because we're not a heretic, but also because, as always, I simply don't like items or abilities that are based on the assumption of failure. So really, just the cargo, the profit factor, and possibly the Death Cult Blade. Might toss the headgear to Adira, but that's not exactly a priority. Let's go ahead and get a gander at that blade real quick. Death Cult Blade versus Silent Verdict. Higher average damage, higher armor pen, but it loses 3 points of dodge reduct. As well as, curiously, it loses the variant of Brutal Strike, the 2-square straight line strike, which I guess we could live without, and I mean really, 3 points of dodge reduct isn't that big a deal. Oh, interesting. So more of a trade-off than an actual straight upgrade. Honestly, I'm kind of torn on that, though I do think the extra armor pen does justify the swap. I mean, ultimately, I do feel like we'll find something better regardless, but sure, why not? We'll go ahead and swap them out. Give it a shot. I do kind of like the way the other one looked better, but whatevs. As always, fashion is the first casualty of practicality. Alright, Kibbles, enjoy the new sword. And, wow, we're actually doing pretty good on time, so I guess we do have time for something else. Unless it's a full-blown event. Yeah, you know what? Give me a sec. I'll do some quick scouting, see what we actually have time for. Be right back. And we're back. And after some brief experimentation, it turns out that we do actually get a single jump without any events triggering. After which we have a huge one. So, given, I suppose, that we only have one location where we can actually do anything that's within a single jump, you know what? We will go ahead and tuck into Cinerus Maleficum. We'll just avoid anything that looks like it's Dark Eldar related and focus on the rest of the stuff. I mean, at the very least, that'll put us within spitting distance of that Eldari cache. We're still keeping Marazai waiting until the very end of Act 2, because, you know, screw that guy. But that's no reason we can't at least poke around, see what else is in the area. Quick spot check on colonies. All clear. And into Litoribum Maledicta we go. Again, no immediate threats in sight, just 4 planets. Let's see what we got. Rocky World. With 7 plasteel? I mean, sure, why not? Yeah, with our modifiers, that's over 10, so I think that justifies an Extractium. Savannah World. Oh, shoot, is that a Wasteland Wayfarer? I don't know if I recognize that one. Is that a point of interest or landing site? Okay, no, we're gonna have to hold off on that. I did not come into this expecting a full-on dungeon. I don't think that has anything to do with Marazai. Marazai's thing is a space battle. I don't know what that is. So we will hold off on that until next time, because I also have no idea how long it will take. Like, the other completely new event we ran into was the Black Ship, and that was pretty extensive. That was like an entire episode, so yeah, this is best saved for when we've got a bit more time to play with. For now, we'll just finish running our scans. And point of interest. Unnamed point of interest. Sure, we'll bite. A small planet, gently wrapped in amber forests, greets you with a ruby-colored dawn. Basil von Dem Kleerch, the local governor, gives the rogue trader a warm welcome. After several glasses of Damascene, the sweltering ruler asks if Valen von Valancius would like to keep him company during the upcoming hunt. Oh, okay, well, hold on. This I do remember. But, you know, Valen doesn't. After several hours of riding the local peculiar animals, you make camp in the middle of the Golden Forest. Basil von Dem Kleerch points at the sky. A flat disc rises over the horizon, constantly morphing its color and shape. The forest grows silent and empty. You can no longer hear the singing of birds or even the rustle of wind. The governor nods with satisfaction, and a few shapes step into the clearing. Their bodies are twisted by an unknown phenomenon, and you watch the freaks with astonishment as they begin to dance to the throaty cackling of their brethren, turning the bony growths and pulsating flesh of their scaly hands toward the unnatural thing in the sky. Basil, what exactly am I looking at here? The governor smiles coyly. You are about to see with your own eyes what is happening here. Oh, good. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Well, you know, seeing is believing, so I guess we should wait and see. The hypnotic dance seemed to continue forever. The unfortunate creatures howled, whined, and convulsed, unable to tear their bleeding eyes from the celestial body. When the Pavonine disk outshone even the light of the local star, the physical shells of the things that used to be men burst, releasing beasts onto this plane that not even the most fluent and capable pen could describe. Basil von Dem Kleerch excitedly explains that the creatures you saw are the children of the great king of distortion. It is he who is the true god and patron of these fertile grounds. Once every cycle his chariot shines its light upon the world and bestows transformations upon his most ardent followers. The rogue trader may become one of his heralds. Well, Basil, that is a very compelling and intriguing offer, and if you'd caught me a year ago, I might have actually considered it. But given more recent events, I'm afraid I'm going to have to politely decline. And also, kill you. But thanks. The governor's head separates from his neck with a distinctive squelch. Black and brown blood seeps into the soil beneath his corpulent body, and is immediately transformed into a writhing tangle of worms that burrow deep into the ground with unnatural speed. You return to the ship pondering what to do with the world, and, more importantly, what to do with the King of Distortion. I mean, if you really want to deal with the problem, you've got to go straight to the top. Set course for the King of Distortion. I would have words. The senior officers observe suspicious activity emanating from the twisted celestial body at the heart of the system. The chaplain advises you to get ready for a potential encounter with spawn of the archenemy, so it may be wise to reconsider, unless you have holy relics, sacred wards, or blessed effigies of the Emperor. Well, it's funny you should mention that, because it turns out that yes, we do. I've been saving them for the Drusians, but this feels like it might be of slightly greater import. A flame with a plethora of colors. The distorted celestial disk trembles slightly beyond the endless windows on the captain's bridge as the rogue trader's ship approaches its center. An otherworldly voice, cold and enveloping, enters your mind. What could this puny wretch possibly offer a king? The officers on the bridge look around, perplexed. Their eyes are full of terror and confusion. Many clutch their heads and let out long howls of pain. Some empty their stomachs, but most, pale and exhausted though they are, have joined the captain in resisting the entity's influence. Who are you? What are you? An endless flow of images fills your consciousness. You see horrifying scenes of millions of tortured souls. Their screams rend your mind. Their pain pierces you with 1,000 red-hot needles. King, ruler, the one who is obeyed. That's all you can make sense of, although you see much more. Yeah, I can't say I much care for that. Maybe you missed the sign on the way in, but this is the Emperor's domain. Your kind aren't welcome here. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. The king's mocking laughter rings in your ears, and a deep red trickle runs slowly from your nose and over your lips, leaving an aftertaste of salt and metal. Alright, well, I tried. Let's kill a god. Or, die trying, which does feel a whole lot more likely, but I don't know what the hidden variables are here. Worst case scenario, we have an autosave from when we entered the sector. Oh, hey. Okay, well, we got double our investment back. I'm going to call that a good sign. Deafening gong strikes are heard across hundreds of decks. Your eyes are misted with red and your gums bleed as your subjects fall to their knees, all at once, in a shared prayer to the God Emperor. The holy relics from the ship's temples melt from the ardor of your speech, and the entity screams and writhes inside your brain, struggling to break out. Many drop dead during the first minutes of the prayer, unable to resist the corruption. However, others immediately take their place, unfazed by the sight of their fellows turning to dust in seconds. Then, a nauseating stench engulfs the ship's decks like a wave, causing people to retch forth their innards. Finally, every deck is plunged into darkness. Ghosts of the past walk among the living, stealing breath from those weak of spirit. And still, the prayer is not extinguished. It is hard to tell if the prayer service has lasted several hours or several days. At some point you feel your very essence overflow with heat and power, and then The intruding will falters. The distorted disk vanishes from the void ship's augers, as if it had never been there. And at long last, everything is quiet. As everyone slowly recovers from what just happened, reports begin to come in to the captain's bridge. You've lost a third of your crew in the unequal fight, and the fortunate survivors are going to take quite some time to come around. All hail the rogue trader. You know what, I'm not sure we actually won that or not, but I feel like that did turn out about as well as we could have possibly hoped. Oh, we had a rumor pop while I was reading that too. Let me just crack open our journal here real quick. King Killer. The rogue traitor, by the force of his words and faith, overpowered the unfathomable entity serving the archenemy. Glory to the Von Valancius dynasty! I mean, no offense, Journal, but that does make it sound like we didn't so much kill it as we did just convince it to leave. I think Basil told us it was what, a once-a-year event? We'll see how these fine folks fare next harvest. But, you know, in the meantime, no reason not to celebrate their temporary liberation. How you guys doing down there? The golden forests of Amberworld look enchanting, even from orbit. Citizens of Amberworld, I, Valen von Valancius, have slain your ruler, and the god he served. Rejoice, for today you join a new protectorate. 1 stack of people, and 1 extractium. From that moment, the world belonged to the rogue traitor alone. Your people eradicated the settlement's housing and unclean followers of the profane cult. The corruption instilled by the King of Distortion loosened its grip, and the estates of Amberworld can breathe a sigh of relief, thanks to the efforts of their new ruler. Yet, malicious servants of the archenemy still lurk in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to wrap the planet in a web of heresy. Evil does not simply disappear without a trace. Yeah, well, you know, sometimes you just gotta take what you can get and enjoy what you've got. Speaking of which, I don't suppose you guys have a little more gratitude to throw my way? You are, after all, part of a greater whole now, for as long as you last. Okay, sure, yeah. 1 almost full stack of provisions, I can use that. Relieved to be free from the archenemy's yoke, the planet's subjects gratefully send you their humble gifts. Mobile extractium, people, and provisions. I'm assuming that's not an extra mobile extractium. Also, people aren't normally a resource we carry in our cargo hold. It's normally tracked up top. Also, normally they don't let us actually re-enter a location unless something else is apt to occur there, which really does kind of bode poorly for the poor Amberworlders. I'd wager that'll be a location we need to someday return to in Act 3 or 4. They did do some pretty heavy lampshading there with Basil worming his way out of certain death. And yeah, I figured we got a spare extractium, might as well grab that plasteel, as paltry as it is. Honestly, at this stage, we've explored almost the entire astromap, and we still have over 10 extractiums. I might just go back and scoop up all the other small bits and bobs of resources we've left in our wake. I'll mull on that once we've re-cleared our travel queue. That said, I do feel like this brings us to a pretty good place to call it. And man, I've got to say, this was a pretty eventful and fulfilling day. We helped advance medical science, we got to know Cabela better, we slew a god and claimed his planet as our own. But perhaps most importantly of all, we finally got our space cat. We'll hit the pause button for now. I will take stock of our usual off-screen bookkeeping. I think we're technically still a couple hundred shy for the next rank of Drusian rep, but I will double-check that. And we will pick up here next time as we dig into whatever's going on here, the Wasteland Wayfarer. Not sure what it is, but I am very keen to find out. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.